I couldn't stop talking about God and how good God was and how I needed to tell my family and how I needed to tell the world. Like it was like just this overwhelming feeling of like everybody needs this and I need to tell everyone.
Hi, everyone. Before we jump into today's episode, I want to remind you that there are two ways to support the podcast. First is through the Finding Fulfillment Together store, which is now officially opened, and you can find items like the sweatshirt I'm wearing now. It says fearfully and wonderfully made. I think it's backwards in the camera, but that's okay. And there's lots of other options in there that will proclaim your Christianity to the world, perfect for you to wear or to purchase for friends and family with Christmas coming up. I hope you find some stuff in there that you like. Also, the second way is to make donations. In the link tree in the description, you will see a way to make donations, and you can do a one-time donation or a recurring monthly donation, whatever works for you. Thank you so much to those of you who have made donations. It truly means the world to me, and to those that choose to do so in the future. Thank you, thank you, thank you. I love you all. Let's jump into today's episode. Hi, everyone. Welcome back to the Finding Fulfillment Together podcast. Today, I'm here with my friend Josh Oxley-Adams, who is from the UK, who I actually shared my testimony on his awesome YouTube channel called Yeshua Testimonies. So we met several months back, but I'm so happy to have you here today. Welcome, Josh.
Thanks, Rebecca. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, absolutely. So Josh is going to share his testimony now here on the Finding Fulfillment Together podcast, and I feel honored to have you here. And yeah, we'll just have a conversation as you go along. So go ahead and start with your childhood. Did you have faith in your childhood?
Yeah, so Rebecca, no faith in my childhood whatsoever. I grew up sort of slightly like kind of spiritual. My mum was into like spiritualism and psychic mediums and like tarot cards and all those sorts of things. So I kind of thought that that was, really normal. But looking back, like no one else I knew did that. None of my friends had their mums doing that. So it probably wasn't that normal, yeah. But basically that was a really interesting thing for me though, because it made me understand that there was some sort of spiritual realm or something, because the things that were going on were really, really accurate, and they spoke into my life many, many times. So that was kind of the base of my spiritual understanding, but no God, like whatsoever, like didn't know anything about God.
So did your mom do like medium readings for you or on you, or psychic readings, like things that came true in your life? That's why like you knew that there was something real to it?
No, so my mum she wasn't really practicing it, but she was more involved in having people come around to the house
Okay.
and give her readings. She did start to get into it a little bit, but she never really did anything on me. She would do Reiki on me every now and then.
Okay.
So it wasn't her doing it. It was just people coming around to the house.
Gotcha. So you knew that there was something real to it, or felt that way anyway, because you saw what was happening.
Well, it was just extremely accurate. And the things they were saying, it was like, how would they ever know that?
Right.
Um, some of them were not so accurate. Some of them I was like, but some of them were like really accurate. So I
Mm.
knew something to that. So I always had an understanding that spirit, as they say, were like guiding me.
Yeah.
Knew nothing about the Holy Spirit.
Right, right. So then as you get older, did you kind of get into that yourself?
So yeah, so basically what happened was with me is I sort of dismissed that for a lot of years. It was like, nah, not really into that. Don't want to be around that. Every time my mum brought that up, this was sort of around 18, as I got a little bit older.
Mm-hmm.
I was like, no, just didn't feel right, and kind of felt I was a bit embarrassed by it. You know how sometimes you are of your parents doing certain things in your life. I was like, no, keep that to one side. And then I just sort of turned to going out, partying, drinking, doing all that sort of stuff. So it kind of went on the back burner. And then I really, I would say I had an issue with partying and drinking. So it wasn't like an issue, like I wasn't addicted to drink or drug, but I was kind of addicted to the showing up at the weekend. It was like my life was empty during the week. So every weekend it was like, right, I'm showing up because I've nothing else going on in my life, you know?
Yeah.
So that was an interesting period. And that period went on until I was probably around 23, 24. And I remember at that point, um, I'd started to do like guided meditations, and I'd started to read books like The Secret.
Mm-hmm.
And I'd started to just dive a little bit deeper into, I didn't know it was New Age. You know, I didn't even really know it was spiritual, I don't think. I just sort of found these things. I can't even remember how I found them, but these things just started creeping into my life, you know. And I suffered with like a lot of anxiety, so the guided meditations would like calm me down and, you know, calm my mind and things. And so I really got into those things. And then I ended up meeting Alana, and she was like a real breath of fresh air. Like, she came into my life and she was just a real breath of fresh air. She like wasn't a drinker and wasn't a partier, you know. She was a good girl, right? And so she really then took me on a journey, you know, pulling me away from that. Like, she didn't try to, it just naturally, you know, happened. And then yeah, so what happened, Rebecca, is we went away traveling. We built a business online, we went away traveling. And that's when I really started exploring these new age ideas in more sort of detail, you know. Started meditating a lot more and started doing yoga a lot more. And just got really, really into self-help books, I suppose.
Mm-hmm.
I was just trying to heal. I knew that there was something that was broken internally and I wanted to heal. So I went on this journey of self-help, you know, and then slowly towards the end of the books, the cycle of reading the books, they got like a lot more spiritual, you know. And I can't remember, is it Untethered Soul by Michael Singer and
Yep.
things like Eckhart Tolle, like all
Mm-hmm.
those sorts of books that are quite a lot more spiritual than just a general self-help book. So I sort of ended up at that point there. Yeah.
Yeah. So there's so many things that I can relate to. Like the party years, it's so looking back, and it's like so common. It's like if you're not raised Christian, pretty much, if you're not raised in the church, or even if you are raised in the church, you slip into it because it's just so normal to just drink and party. And you work throughout the week, right? Monday through Friday, you're working. You just can't wait for the weekend where you can just let loose. And it's so common. And it usually goes into later than that, later in the 20s and then 30s. And yeah, it's just so unfortunate that you just don't realize what you're doing. You're just wasting time, like during those years.
I really think that with me is, I don't know about yourself, but it was because I had zero fulfillment in my life.
Hmm.
Like from work, it was like I was sort of taught that work is just work, and it gets kind of, no matter if you love it or it's like the most you're passionate about it, it becomes boring eventually. So do
Hmm.
something that basically gives you money, like good
Right.
money. So I went and became an electrician because I was like, because all my family were like, it's good money.
Hmm.
And I just hated it. So that was one of the main reasons that I just at the weekend wanted to just party, because I just hated my life, you know,
Yep.
and zero fulfillment, you know, from Monday to Friday.
Exactly. Exactly. And that's why the original name of my podcast was Finding Fulfillment, because that's what I was out searching for when I was out on the road. I quit my job and I was just looking for fulfillment. And then I had, no idea that Jesus was going to come into to play, and there is no fulfillment without him. But anyway, it's so common that that's what people are seeking. And then getting into the new age stuff, the, the I know like everyone in that realm, in that community, is seeking healing. Like that's why they're there. That's why they're going deep into these practices. It's why they're drinking psychedelics or taking psychedelics and going into these meditations and everything. Like you're just, and all the books upon books upon books, just seeking for that healing. So it's so common and just unfortunate because you're not going to find it there. You're going to find the false healing, which we'll get into later. But so when you first met Alana, was she Christian?
She grew up not in the church as such, but she grew up. Her parents weren't Christian, but they sent her to like Sunday school and like sort of midweek, uh, like Bible events
Okay.
uh, with other children. So she had from a young age accepted Christ. Like she, had a relationship with Christ, but when she moved to England, that kind of fell away.
Okay.
Um, just from people. She came over to England, and I think she got mocked in England
Mm,
in Christ.
wow.
So that fell away a little
Yeah.
bit.
So was she getting into the new age stuff with you when you were into it?
She was, yeah, she was, but like it didn't take a hold of her like it did me.
Gotcha.
So So for her, like she was coming and she was doing the yoga, and but for me, like something felt really spiritual about it. Whereas I think for her, it didn't. She was
Yeah.
like meditation and things. She was sort of like, oh, I can't really do it, and so it wasn't getting a hold of her,
Yeah.
but do some of the practices with me. Yeah.
Yeah. Interesting. Okay. So then it kind of got a hold of you. So what happened from there?
So I want to actually go back because I forgot to talk about the Ouija board incident,
Oh,
which
yep.
about. So after me and Alana met, I really knew when I met Alana, oh, this girl is for me. I just knew I'm going to marry this girl. And what happened was she had a friend that recommended she go see this medium that had that was like a Ouija board medium, right?
Mm.
And obviously you see Ouija boards in movies and you just think bad.
Mhm.
But no one in that space of seeing these mediums all this time had never really spoke anything about Ouija boards. So I just thought, oh, it must just be within that realm. I just thought maybe like, let's just go do it. But so she went to do this and I was going with her. But on the day, something happened which never happens to me because I'm so impulsive and I always want to be there. I want to, be stuck in it. But something happened and I just said to her, do you know what? I don't want to go.
Mm.
So I didn't go. So she went there and she came back and it was so weird, Rebecca, right? Because I knew, like inside me, I knew that something bad was going to happen while she was there. It was so weird,
Mm.
you know. And she came back and she said, have you got something to tell me? And I was like, no.
Mm.
And she goes, so everything that Ouija board said was so, so true, like the most accurate thing I've ever experienced in my entire life. And it told me that you were cheating on me, basically, when you were in Amsterdam with all you with like friends, basically.
Mhm.
Um, and it wasn't true. So
Wow.
I was really took back by it, obviously. And so we sort of tried we sort of tried to work through that,
Yeah.
but it was very hard because there was a trust broken, within the relationship because she believed this Ouija board, and I was like, it's not true, and
Right.
because it was like I was getting accused of something that I didn't actually do, it was making me very, very angry,
Yeah. Mhm.
accused of something, and it's potentially about to ruin your relationship that you didn't actually do. So we kind of moved and we got past it, and then we decided we built an online business and we decided to go traveling. And then before we went traveling, I said to Alana, I said, let's go back to that Ouija board because, and this is really fascinating what I said, because I said, if we get someone that's my relative, a dead relative of mine, they're not going to
Mm.
lie, and I'm going to find out the truth. I'm going to
Yeah.
reveal the truth. That's what I said, right through
Yeah.
the Ouija board. So I'm like, that's kind of crazy because later on, the Ouija board kind of does, take the truth. But so we went back anyway, and this was like 2 weeks before we were going traveling. We go back, we sit down, they start doing the thing, and basically, I've never experienced anything like it. Like, I've seen mediums all my life, but never ever experienced anything. You could ask it questions,
Mhm.
obviously, like on a Ouija board, and it would answer, everything, everything. The only thing that they said you couldn't speak about was like death, like when you were going to die.
Okay.
That was just like what they said. So you could literally ask it anything, and it was speaking all these things out, and it was all true. And I was like, what? So then it was my granddad, right? So it was my family member. So I was like, right, granddad, I need to ask you, did I cheat on Alana when I was in Amsterdam with my friends?
Mhm.
And I just remember the Ouija board, like, kind of like went like, yes, 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 yes. Like, went towards yes loads of times and like
Whoa.
freaked me out. And I just instantly started crying. And it was just really overwhelming. And I was saying to there was two ladies that were doing it. And I was saying to them, like, that's a lie, and I was saying, like, does this ever lie? And they were going, no, this has never lied. They said, this has never lied. So I was like, so it was like, again, I was sort of, we'd come through this slightly, and now we were back in this broken trust sort of situation. And crazily, we managed to catch up, right? And we went away traveling. So everything worked out okay. But that situation was just like lingering over us, you know, the whole for the next sort of 2 or 3 years. And I want to just tell you one more thing, which is crazy. So the friend of Alana's that recommended we go, she was a real big believer in this, and she was constantly saying to Alana, you know, you need to leave Josh because this is telling you need to leave Josh. So obviously, like, I didn't really like her because she was trying to split us up, and I was like, no, I'm not having that. Like, so so the friendship kind of, I think, really was strained between Alana and her and me. So about 2 weeks ago, Alana was speaking to this friend. Now, obviously, it's been years. It's been 5 or 6 years since then. The friend actually goes, I don't believe in that Ouija board anymore.
Wow.
And I was like, why? And she goes, well, I took my friend and it lied.
Wow. Look at that.
I was there like going, yes, finally, like she might believe me, you know? But, and then she goes, and this is crazy, and this made my skin crawl when I heard it. And then she goes, and the friend said to me, this outright lied. And she said, and did you see the number of the house? Right? The number of the house is 666.
Whoa.
So, like, this is a revelation that this just happened like a few weeks ago.
Wow.
So anyway, that whole thing, I think, is just like, for me, like, was just pure.
That was the number of the house where you went to get the reading from the Ouija board. Whoa. Yeah. Oh my gosh.
Yeah. So that also put her off and the friend off, you know, and obviously me and Alana were put off straight away. But yeah, so that's kind of fresh revelation. And it's
interesting.
Yeah, very interesting. So where are we at here? So do you have any questions about that?
So, okay, so you're off traveling. You got this, you're kind of 2 or 3 years, this is still causing issues for you guys, but you're getting through it. And now at this point, are you getting deeper into New Age spirituality?
Yeah, so yeah, I'm getting deeper into the New Age, not even knowing it is called the New Age still.
Right. Same. I never called that until I came out of it and saw New Age to Jesus testimonies, and I'm like, wait, New Age? Is that what I was doing?
Exactly the same as me.
Yeah.
One of the main people that was really keeping me in the New Age was kind of like Jay Shetty. I was watching Jay Shetty loads.
Yep.
So yeah, so I was heavily sort of in that and didn't pass any remarks, you know, thought I was just healing. And I was healing. I was definitely healing. It was definitely helping to some degree. And I sort of felt all my life, I think it was all to do with my mum always talking about spirit and guiding you and things. So I always felt guided, right? And we were living in New Zealand and we'd been there for a year. And I said to Alana, you know, like, something's telling me to go home. Like, something's guiding me home. And I did not want to go home. Like, I never wanted to go home. When I left England, I actually said, I never want to go back. Like, it just was like, I wanted to leave the old Josh behind in England and I just didn't want to go back, you know?
Yep. I get it completely.
And then basically I talked Alana into going back because I just really felt I needed to go back. And so we went back and we surprised my mum and my family, which was really fun. And then after that, we came over to Northern Ireland and we surprised Alana's mum. And then sort of a few weeks after that, or even maybe a few days after that, Alana's mum had been going to these Christian meetings through COVID. And she was like, you know, basically, you're coming to this Christian meeting tonight. And Alana like sort of passed on the message to me. And I was like, no, I'm not going to that. You know, because in my head, Christians were just old and kind of religious folk that I didn't want to be around, you know? So I was like, no, I'm not going. But Alana goes, you know, my mum was really adamant that we need to go because these people know we're coming and they're really excited to meet you. So I was like, right, okay. And the crazy thing is, right, it was a ladies' night. It was a ladies' night, and they took me. So, right, but basically, they took me along, and I sat outside because I thought I wasn't even welcome to this ladies' night. And then afterwards, they were having like they were like singing, and someone was giving testimony or something. So I was welcome to that part. So I sat outside while the ladies' night was going on inside. And then one of the guys came out and was like, you know, like, what are you doing out here? Like, all the men are in the kitchen. So So this was like the last few minutes of their ladies dinner or whatever they were having. So I went in and I just started chatting to these. There was like 2 or 3 guys in there for like 2 or 3 minutes, and then we went downstairs and it was like worship and all, and someone gave a word or some testimony or something, and I remember feeling really uncomfortable in the worship. I remember just so aware that I'm stood here around loads of people and singing, and it was just uncomfortable. I didn't feel comfortable at all.
Mm-hmm.
And I felt anxious. Anyway, and straight after that, Brendan, one of the guys I was talking to, and I only literally spent 2 or 3 minutes with him, he like beelined for me straight at the end, and he prophesied over my life, and he said that you're going to be a teacher and a preacher in the name of Jesus. He's like, God's told me this. And he was like, and honestly, this never happens to me. He was like, I never give words of knowledge to people. I never prophesy over people's lives. He was like, but there's this overwhelming feeling that you're going to be a teacher and a preacher in the name of Jesus.
Wow.
I was like, I just remember thinking, wow, like, because I was the most teachery and preachery guy, like, ever. But like, only behind closed doors, like with Alana, I'd learned something about like the New Age, and I'd want to tell her, and I just wanted to tell everyone everything. But like with these guys, like I just met them, I just said hello, and I just said, "Oh yeah, I'm Josh," and they asked me a couple of questions, but I wasn't teaching or preaching, so it was like it was so left field. They didn't know me at all. So, and what was really interesting about that is that was like the mediums, right? It was like exactly what the mediums used to do. They'd speak into my life, so I knew that God was encountering me in a way that I understood.
Yeah.
So that was so really interesting. And then after that, Rebecca, I decided that, I probably should just look into who Jesus is. I probably should do a little bit of research because I don't know who he is. I didn't even know that Jesus, like we thought that Jesus was God. I thought that I knew nothing about him.
Yeah.
So I went to YouTube, as you do, and I started watching the Bible Project. Started just learning, through the cartoon, through the animations. And, I sort of felt that there was I wasn't really that interested, but I sort of felt something keeping me coming back. But every time I watched, I was like, oh, I wasn't fascinated by it,
Yeah.
And then what happened is because I was watching the Bible Project, then sort of Christian testimonies started popping up. And I started watching DeLaFay testimonies. And the first one I watched was like, it was incredible. And, I remember it like moving me to tears. I was like, crying. And I was like, wow, okay. And for the first time, I'd heard about Jesus encountering people and like having a relationship with people and, changing people. And I'd never really heard about that until I started watching these testimonies. And then basically I went on for like a year after that. I went on a journey of just like binging the DeLaFay testimonies. Like I just watched all the testimonies on that channel.
Yeah.
And then one day a testimony popped up, right? And it said, New Age to Jesus. And it was talking about ayahuasca. And it wasn't on DeLaFay, it was some guy called Ben Smith, I think it is. And it was a 2-part testimony, and they were quite long. And I sort of thought, do I want to watch it or not? And I debated with it. But anyway, I eventually watched it in 2 parts. I watched it 40 minutes and then 40 minutes after. And he was just basically speaking about everything that I'd been doing, but I didn't, I wasn't aware that it was called the New Age or anything like that.
Had you gotten into psychedelics? Did you know what ayahuasca was when you were watching that?
Yeah, well, so I hadn't gotten into them, but I was like, if someone offered me them, or if I was somewhere where I knew they existed, like, they were easily accessed, I would have done them. Because I was really interested in them. I was watching, I heard Joe Rogan talking about them a few times, and just heard people talking about them. So, where am I at now?
That 2-part testimony, though, like it really spoke to you.
Yeah. So, and I remember at the end of the second part, he'd grown up Christian, and he said he kept having these signs about like sort of coming back to Jesus. So I was thinking, this is interesting, because I felt as though there'd been a few signs in my life about Jesus. And then he said, and he gave his life back, you know, he went back towards Jesus, you know, kind of repented of everything he was doing and turned back towards Jesus. And he said, and for the first time, he experienced the peace and the joy and all the things that he'd been looking for in the New Age. He experienced that when he turned back. So I was like, whoa, okay. And I was like, I think this is also what I'm looking for, you know, because I didn't really know what I was looking for. I just kind of knew that there was something missing. So I remember after that, I sort of, I was actually in the bath and I would go in the bath and I'd just pray, you know, and I prayed a few times actually, you know, about like giving my life to Jesus. I sort of expected something magical to happen. So because a few times when I prayed, it didn't. I was, oh, okay. And then I prayed it one last time and nothing really happened. It felt peaceful, you know, but nothing really happened. So I sort of like then in faith just kind of was like, right, okay, I think I've done it. I think that's it, right?
Yeah.
And then a week later, I then had a dream. And I woke up. So obviously I've had dreams my entire life for 29 years at this point. And I'd never had a dream like this, you know. It was more like a download. So I woke up and I had this like just overwhelming like sensation. It was I think it was in the middle of the night even, you know. And I had like a download and it was like, you know, basically I felt like it was God saying to me, you know, the way in which you use a car, so like how a human gets into the car and then has control over it or like guides it, you know, turns left, turns right, accelerates, brakes. He was like, you know, that's the way in which I want to use you. And I wasn't really well versed in the Holy Spirit too much, so I didn't really understand it.
Yeah.
But after that, I started to realize, like, you know, a few days after I was thinking about it and I was telling Alana, and I knew that it was God, but I didn't fully, you know, I couldn't comprehend it fully. And I'd never been to church still at this point, like never stepped foot in church. And basically I started to realize that it was like basically confirmation that I'd got saved, I'd received the Spirit, and He wanted to use me now.
Yeah.
Wow, okay. So that was, you know, incredible, you know. And then what happened is about a week after that, we drove back to England because we were in Northern Ireland at that point. We drove back to England, and I remember it was like a beautiful morning, and there was like a sunrise, and we were driving up to get on the boat to go over to England. And I'd not at this point, like, I wasn't very preachy, or I didn't talk about God, you know. I wasn't like the crazy Christian that I am right now.
Yeah.
I'm not there yet. And I started talking to Alana about God. And luckily she was driving and I was in the passenger seat. And I couldn't stop talking about God and how good God was and how I needed to tell my family and how I needed to tell the world. Like it was just this overwhelming feeling of like everybody needs this and I need to tell everyone. And I just remember like I just started crying, but like uncontrollably, like weeping and like crying and just talking about how good God was. And I was like, I kept saying to Lana, I don't know what's going on. I don't even know what's going on.
Yeah.
But I had heard that sometimes this does happen if the sort of spirit like falls on you or like I don't really understand, but I'd heard this in the testimonies that sometimes the Holy Spirit can do this to people and make them cry and that sort of thing. So I was fascinated by that, you know. That about 15 minutes later, that sort of subsided, and I was like, "Whoa, okay, what was that?" But yeah, we went over to England, and like, you know, I was telling my mom and everyone. They didn't receive it too well, to be honest. But that was okay. And then about a week after that, I had a second dream. And the second dream was fascinating. Again, it was like another download. I woke up, and I think this time it was the morning. I woke up. It wasn't the middle of the night. It was the morning, and I woke up, and I had the same feeling. Like it was like just this intense feeling that like the thoughts ringing around my head. I need to take note of them. It was just this weird feeling. Yeah. It's hard to explain what it actually is. But then I went downstairs and started writing these memories down. There were memories, and as I would write them down, I would realize that each one was like God telling me that I was encountering you here.
Mm.
So the first memory was like I was like 5 or 6, and I was sat in assembly at school, and we used to sing songs, you know, about Jesus.
Yeah.
And I had no idea we were singing about Jesus. We were singing about God. I sort of knew probably we were singing about Jesus, but I didn't know who Jesus was.
Right.
So, but it gave me, but I remember like just feeling like an overwhelming like love and peace and joy. And like, I love to sing in assembly.
Mm.
And so he brought me back to that point, and he was like, you know, the reason you felt like this was because you were worshiping me, you were worshiping God, and I was encountering you. I was trying to make you realize that. And then also a few years after that, I was still in assembly, and I was still singing my heart out. And a friend come up to me, and he sort of said, you know, it's really weird. I see you in assembly singing, and it's really weird, like, to see how much you love it, you know. And there was another guy, and this other guy I think he was autistic or something, and he really, really worshipped as well.
Mm-hmm.
But it was me and him that really, really worshipped. And he sort of like drew that connection between me and him. And in a weird way, I feel like he was trying to discourage me.
Mm-hmm.
But actually, it kind of encouraged me.
Yeah.
Yeah, like there's something, I just knew there was something happening. So anyway, God brought me back to that point too. And he was like, you know, again, this is like a point where I was telling you, you know.
Yeah.
And then the third one was there was quite a few, to be fair, but the third one that I want to speak about was basically that I'd got really zealous for like the new age, you know. I'd got really zealous about like transformation, about healing, and about all these things. And Jay Shetty really led me into like wanting to be like a monk. Like I said to Alana all the time, like I would go be a monk like 100% if I didn't have life. I was just so keen. Like while we were actually traveling, again, just a side story here, like, you know, I was like I got really into minimalism, and I would like travel the world with like a backpack and like literally no clothes, like nothing. And so the idea of having less material things and sort of giving myself to these practices was like really, really drawing me in. And again, God sort of brought me back to that and showed me that he was encountering me, you know, for what was to come, you know, for me to basically deny myself, you know, and, you know, sort of pick up my cross basically and live for Jesus. And there was another one actually there's another one that's really crazy I need to speak about. So the other one was I used to always tell people that I was going to die, you know, tell everybody in my life, friends, girlfriends, you know, my family, all the time. I'd say, I know I'm going to die young, right? And I had this knowing that it was around 30 years old. Like I just knew, and I told everybody. I even told Alana, you know, partner. And so everybody knew this about me. And then, so he brought me back to that memory, and he told me that you told everyone this because, you know, you were going to die to yourself, and you were going to become born again, and you were going to become a born again Christian. So that really blew my mind, that one, because just I didn't even know what a Christian was, you know. So it couldn't have been of me, you know. It couldn't have been, you know, my subconscious sort of you know, telling me that. And then do you have any questions at this point?
I mean, I have a few, but I don't want to take you off track. But I do kind of want to. So during this time, as you're like diving in, you're having these dreams that are confirming everything you've experienced. The Holy Spirit is filling you. What's Alana's reaction during this time?
It's so funny because, like, you know, most people would probably be a bit like maybe weirded out by it or like confused or like, but she just, I don't know, there was not much of a reaction.
She was just like, okay.
There wasn't much of a reaction. Yeah, no. But anyway, I'll tell you about the third dream now, because what I sort of always say to people when I tell these stories is that all these were kind of they could have been explained by my subconscious because they were all memories and all certain things, you know. And then I had this third dream, right? And then this dream was kind of like God saying, "This is not your subconscious. This is me." So what happened in the third dream was I was having a dream in this one. It wasn't a download. It was a dream, and I could see it, in my mind's eye, whatever, while I'm asleep.
Yep.
And I was on a road in Sheffield where I grew up.
Mm-hmm.
There's two sort of houses on this road, and they're real. They exist in reality. But then in my dream, there was a house in the middle,
Mm-hmm.
and it didn't exist. It wasn't a real house. And I was working in that house with my dad, with my father,
Mm-hmm.
and a real dad in real life.
Yeah.
And I remember walking up the stairs and meeting my dad in the kitchen. And I remember saying to him, I'm really struggling at the minute because I don't know where to go. I've given my life to Jesus, and I feel like there's something in that. I feel like God's calling me to something, but I don't know what it is.
Mm-hmm.
At the same time, I had built all these skills while traveling. So like I could make videos and I could take photos, and I thought, shall I go and shall I become like a wedding photographer, or, like what shall I do basically? And I asked my dad, what should I do? And then at that point I woke up and I had a thought ringing around my head that was saying, go read what Paul said in 1 Timothy chapter 1.
Mm.
And I just want to say at this point, like I hadn't read the Bible. I had started reading Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John. But that had only been like really recent,
Yeah.
I was only saved at that point still like a couple of months. So I barely even got into anything. So I had no idea there was 1 Timothy.
Mm-hmm.
I had no idea Paul wrote it. I had no idea about any of that. And what happened was I opened my phone and I had a thought, and I was like, if there's a 1 and 2 Timothy, this is going to be mind blowing. Mm-hmm. So I click into my Bible and there's a 1 and 2 Timothy. So I'm like, okay. And then I'm like, right, if Paul wrote this book, if somehow I, know that Paul wrote this book, then this is going to be mind blowing. So I click into the book, the chapter, and at the top, because it was an NLT version,
Mm-hmm.
at the top it said, "Greetings from Paul." And like I was just so mind blown, and I just started crying straight away.
Yeah.
I just knew that God was speaking to me straight away, and I knew that He was like sort of confirming that this is me, this is not you, because you would have never ever been able to do that. No matter
Mm-hmm.
how crazy good our subconscious is, and we don't understand it. Like I would have never been able to do that subconsciously.
Yeah.
So. And then I have my Bible here, so let me just get the scripture and read it to you.
Yeah.
So 1 Timothy. So what was crazy was I opened 1 Timothy and I seen that it was written by Paul, but then what I did was I just instantly scrolled right to the bottom, right?
Okay.
And I scrolled to the section that said Timothy's responsibility. And I just instantly knew, all that doesn't matter, but this bit's for me.
Wow.
I don't know how it happened. I have no idea how I knew that. I just knew it, like intuitively, God was obviously telling me,
Mm-hmm.
And I'll read it to you here. So it says Timothy's responsibility. Now, bear in mind, I was asking about like what I should do in life.
Yep.
And it's Timothy, my son, here are my instructions for you based on the prophetic words spoken about you earlier.
Mm-hmm.
Help you fight well in the Lord's battles. Cling to your faith in Christ and keep your conscience clear. For some people have deliberately violated their consciences. As a result, their faith has been shipwrecked. And then it goes on to talk about two people that basically their faith was shipwrecked. But I read that and I just knew everything about my dream was perfectly aligned with that. So it was mind blowing, right? So the first section is Timothy, my son. So I just sort of knew this is to me. This is Josh, my son.
Mm-hmm.
And in the dream, I was speaking to my dad, right? So, and I was asking him, where should I go in life, right? And then the next sentence says, here are my instructions for you.
So clear.
Mind blown by this. This was the most incredible thing that had ever happened to me. Um, and then obviously I had the prophetic word spoke over me. And then the next thing says, based on the prophetic words spoken about you earlier. And then it just goes on to sort of like basically tell me to cling to my faith, and it's going to help me fight well in this battle. And I forgot to tell you about the first bit, didn't I? About before. I've just realized now, but I'll go tell you that now. So anyway, this was the most mind-blowing thing. But the night before this, Alana had been getting guided really divinely, by God onto a path that she wanted to go onto. And I was a little bit like, oh God, you prophesied over my life, but I don't know where to go. I don't know what to do with that, like, and a teacher and a preacher in the name of Jesus. I don't know what to do with that.
Right.
So the night before that, I actually said to Alana and said to God, even though I didn't pray it, I sort of knew I was saying it to God. I was like, I want God to do that to me. I want him to show me where to go. I want him to show me what to do. And then I had that dream.
Wow. It's amazing. And to have the prophecy spoken over you, and for some reason it's sticking with me that the guy was like, I don't normally do this. Like, I don't normally prophesy.
Yeah.
I don't normally get these messages from God, but it's happening and I'm gonna have to tell you this, And then to now have it come full circle, bring you right to that scripture, to scroll down to the bottom too, knowing that that wasn't for you. That's wild. That's wild.
So wild. I honestly, I couldn't explain it if I tried. And
Yeah.
I challenge anyone to try. And
Right. Right.
I have no idea how that could ever happen. And
Yeah.
apart from the fact that I'd given my life to Jesus, and then he just started showing up.
Yep.
So yeah, that's that's kind of like the moment where I realized this is so real. This is so real. This is more real than I ever even imagined. And since then, I was actually at that point I was making YouTube videos, but like all sort of for about me, about my life. I was making videos about photography. I was also making videos about the New Age.
Yep.
Where I got saved. So a couple of months after that, I just knew that I need to transfer this, over to something for God. And testimony was like such a big thing in my life because that's how I got saved.
Yeah.
So I decided to start a testimony channel. I called it Yeshua Testimonies, and that's just been such a blessing because yourself, it's so nice getting saved and then being surrounded by people that sort of have just got saved or have walked for ages in the faith. But yeah, so that's just been a blessing, getting to speak with people and getting to meet people online like yourself, Rebecca, and just getting to collaborate with people. It's been amazing.
Yeah, I completely understand. So how long has it been now? Was that, you said like 5 years ago that you were saved? Or
No,
how long ago? No, not that long.
no, not that long, like maybe 18 months.
Oh my gosh. Wow. That's exciting. I love it. God's doing such amazing things. It's just so awesome. The amount of people that I've met that are newly saved and, from New Age, because that's obviously who I'm reaching out to and who's finding my channel and stuff. But yeah, oh, such an amazing journey. And there's so many parallels. Like when you were talking about when you just left that church and you were just curious, like, all right, I want to know a little bit more about Jesus. I was curious about Jesus the whole time I was diving into New Age. I had this curiosity, but like I kept being told he was an ascended master, or and I heard about the lost years where he was in meditation and he was doing Hindu meditation. That people just made these things up about Jesus. And then I even listened to a couple of books by Deepak Chopra about Jesus and his interpretation of who Jesus is, because I was so curious. But I realize now, like, those are all just people's interpretation. Like, if you want to know who Jesus is, read the Bible. Read the Bible and talk to him, pray to him, because he will show up in your life. And like, it's really amazing. Stories like yours are so encouraging, so encouraging. Uh,
Yeah, no, I started reading the Bible, and I never ever thought that I would be into the Bible. I sort of thought, oh, maybe I could be a Christian, but like the Bible, like I sort of seen it as like a dusty book that like no one ever read anymore. But yeah, I have a real desire to read the Bible. Like I love reading the Bible. I'm still reading the NLT because it's really quite easy to understand.
Yeah.
I've not really gone anywhere near the King James yet because that
Yeah.
kind of, but yeah, like I have a real desire for it, and I love it, and it's really changing me, and convicting me when I'm reading through certain things, and so yeah, it's I never would have thought that would have happened.
I know. I know. And I think that's such a sign of being reborn because like I didn't have that desire. Like I was reading the Bible, but like begrudgingly. Like I had no interest in it. I was like trudging through it. And then after I had, my experience where I was fully reborn, it was like I was hungry for it, you know? And I
Mhm.
see that a lot in people that like have come to know Jesus. Like you just want to know more. And it's all in there. And what I
Mhm.
love about it is especially the New Testament, like all of Paul's teachings, it's like I understand, I get it, I'm experiencing it. You know what I mean? He's literally describing what I've been experiencing. So it's just so cool. It's crazy. I never thought I'd be saying the Bible is cool, you know?
Yeah, yeah, me too. Me too. And how did how did all like your friends react? Like, how did everyone react in your life when you got
Oh,
saved?
it's still I'm still trudging through it. It's hard, like yeah, it's hard. My family is accepting and all fine because they all like have belief in Jesus. No one's on fire the way I am, I'm a little crazy. But I do have friends that they don't want to talk to me anymore because it's just too much for them, because they're either atheists or they're in the new age still, and they just don't understand. Like my good friend from that was an atheist that I was an atheist. Like we got along, everything was fine. We just lived our lives. We were in the world, right? Now I'm talking about Jesus constantly, and all she sees really is my social media because we don't really talk much anymore. And she told me that she just feels uncomfortable. She doesn't understand how we can be friends anymore. And it's just like, what? So yeah, it's tough. I'm working through it, but I'm now not traveling anymore. I'm grounded here in West Virginia, which is I never thought I'd be here. Um, but I'm, making friends through the church and, finding a kind of, I'm almost starting over as this new creation. I'm like starting over.
Yeah, yeah. That's actually it's a little bit like my story there actually, because he when we got saved, like God really had us move to Northern Ireland, um, and again, it feels like just a fresh start for me. You
Yeah.
know, really knew that I needed that
Hmm.
uh, because similar to yourself, like my family have been pretty accepting, apart from the fact that I'm pretty annoying with it. I'll bombard them from time to time, especially my mom. So I think sometimes she's like, "Shut up," basically, stop talking about Jesus. But yeah, like all my friends in England, it's not that there's been a fallout, but there's just been a natural like just falling away. Um, and I just really feel that God's got me here because that was maybe supposed to happen.
Hmm.
Mm. And I'm just sort of riding the wave and letting him do whatever, you know,
Yeah.
it
Right.
is.
I'm at the same point. I'm riding the wave. I'm like, I don't know it's the first time in my life where I don't have like a real plan. Like
Mm.
I'm just planning it kind of like a little bit at a time. I'm letting him show me the way, putting it all in his hands. And every morning I say that, just get me through this day. Give me this day my daily bread. And he does, it's amazing that he always provides if you just keep following him. Just follow him. There was a quote from the series The Chosen that I love, where the character in it, Matthew, who plays Matthew, was saying that, I used to wake up with all this anxiety and worry. He's like, and now I wake up just knowing I have to do one thing, follow him.
Mm.
And it's so beautiful, because it's so true. Do I still get caught up in anxiety and stuff? Sure. But I remember to just give it to God, you know?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
So I
No,
have a question for you though, because it's going in this walk, it's a challenge. It's not easy. It's not straightforward. Do you have moments where you get like you feel unbelief?
yes, but never from a place of feeling. It's weird. It's like never from a place of like feeling as though God's not there.
Hmm.
I just sometimes think, does that old way of thinking make more sense?
Hmm.
it's like I sort of always know that God's there, but I sometimes think, oh, does that way of thinking, maybe that way that the occult thinks about this, does that make more sense there? And I'd say that sometimes that draws me back and forth of like, oh, and I'm just really trying to just realize that I just submit everything towards God, So sometimes I have that, and I think that sometimes feels like a bit of unbelief, yeah.
Mhm.
Not trusting fully, yeah. Every now and then, yeah,
Yeah,
that's what.
trusting. I think that's a good way to put it because I think sometimes I get caught in that too, and it's always when like I'm trying to figure it out. I'm trying to understand it. I'm trying to wrap my head around it. And then I get a little frantic if it doesn't make sense. And then I remember, wait a minute, I'm not God. You know, I'm not gonna understand all of it, but I know that he's real. Like I know there's too many things that have happened that have shown. And if he does nothing else, my salvation is enough. The whole experience I had is enough for me to know that he is the way. And that I lean on that verse so much, John 14:6, that he is the way, the truth, and the life. And no one comes to the Father but through him. It's just for me, that's just been my rock, that verse. It always brings me back. Like, that's it. He is it, you know?
Yeah,
So,
no, I think that like when we spoke about the dreams, if I didn't have those dreams, I I think maybe I would have definitely had more unbelief. I think that those
mm,
have been so solid, have made me so solid because I'm like, I can't explain them, you know?
yeah,
And it all happened around the time that I gave my life to Jesus. So I'm like,
right,
I'm so solid in it because of that. So I'm really thankful for that. And I know that not everyone experiences things like that.
right,
So I know that sometimes people's walks are a little bit tougher about the unbelief and things. But I
yeah.
really I experienced that because God knew I would walk. I changed my mind like I changed my underwear. So literally, God did that because He was like, I know this guy's gonna just get on to the next thing. So He
Yeah.
had to like that. And I suppose for anyone watching that feels like, oh, I've not had that encounter. Well, He probably knows that you've more faith than me.
Mm-hmm. Right.
At the,
Yeah. Yeah,
you know,
that's true. Yeah,
yeah.
because it says somewhere, I forget where, but blessed is he who believes and does not see.
Hmm.
So for the man or the woman that's always believed or whenever from the moment they had belief, just never had to see a miracle, never had to see a sign, they just believe. Like that is beautiful, that is so beautiful. And I mean, I feel like sometimes this podcast helps me so much because I'm constantly hearing the stories and constantly being reminded of how real he is and how tangible he is. And I wanted to go back to that moment of the dream where he said, "Let me use you the way that you would use a car." Like I try to live that out. It's hard. It's easier said than done. Like you just want to get out of the way and let him drive. But we are so used to, however many years we had of being the driver. It's like I keep wanting to take back that wheel. It's hard.
Yeah, it's hard to give up control, isn't it? And like
Mm.
every now and then when something looks like it's going wrong, not just grab the wheel and go, nope, come on. Because sometimes things have to go wrong, or you have to go down certain paths and things. And yeah, sometimes that is tough, yeah. And I definitely don't, even though he gave me that dream, I definitely really struggle with that,
Yeah.
I take control way too much, but that's something
Yeah.
well,
It's a lifelong process,
yeah.
like just got to keep on every day giving him more and more. And there's ups and downs, but he's always there and he's always faithful. And I always find that like when I'm struggling or I'm worrying or I'm in unbelief, I pray and pray and pray. And then he comes around, in some way, shape, or form that like he leads me to something in the Bible or brings me a person or whatever it is, something that brings me back.
Mm.
So now, so you're on fire, and I love it because I understand completely. Is Alana aligned? Are you guys she fully in with Jesus now?
Yeah, so I'd say that like I'm way more on fire. So she finds that really annoying sometimes.
Hmm.
Um, she has like God has moved crazily in her life as well, and
Yeah.
still doing so many things in her life as we speak. And that she can't deny,
Hmm.
a little bit like the dream stories, but yeah, she's not definitely as zealous, but that's
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah.
Have those
Right.
days of starting our walk.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. And then what about your mom? Is she still into like tarot cards and that type of spirituality?
Yeah,
New
my mum.
Age?
So it's weird because she doesn't. I don't hear of her doing those things anymore. But yeah, I think so. She's not really had a uh, come to Jesus kind of moment. So I think she's still into that sort of stuff. But she did about a week ago. She came around to mine and she was asking me all about Jesus.
Mm.
That's the first time she's done that. You know,
Wow. Okay.
the actual interest. So I'm praying for her, and I actually prayed for her for the first time. I've never actually prayed for her, like laid hands on her and prayed for her. And she's got like an issue with her eye. So, laid hands on her and prayed for her and prayed for like a good 10 minutes and prayed into all sorts of different things. And then she sort of was like crying and like
Um,
gave me a big hug and was like, that was beautiful. So, you know, something's softening a little bit because I don't think that that would have maybe happened a year ago. So,
right. Oh, for
yeah.
sure. That's powerful. Because I think that's a good thing to bring up because I pray a lot for my family, but I don't think I've ever, I mean, outside of saying like a prayer before dinner, like I don't pray on them. I don't pray for them in person. And I think I need to. I think I
Mm,
need to.
yeah,
Yeah.
I would say that was really powerful. I've never had the urge to do that until recently when she has the problem with her eye. But yeah, I feel as though like every time I see her, now I want to do that because it was
Yeah.
even just like our relationship. It just made us feel closer or something.
Hmm.
Received it, and it was just beautiful.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Awesome. Oh my
yeah.
gosh. Thank you so much for sharing your story. Is there anything else that you want to add or anything you want to say to close it out?
No, there's nothing really that I want to add in terms of my story. I would just say that like literally 18 months ago, I would never, ever, ever, ever would have thought that I was here, believing in Jesus, reading the Word, reading the Bible, and my life's just changed for the better so much. There's been so much healing. There's been so much like letting go of things in the past, and I was trying to do all that in the new age, and I really just feel as though everything sort of happened and came to pass, and in a way that like I didn't even have to try, which is, you know, um, obviously like the way of like Christianity is like give it all to God. And in the new age, obviously we try and cling to everything, fix everything. And it's just been so freeing. It's been so freeing to do this. And yeah, like from my experiences, like I know God is real, you
Mm.
know. Um, so I would just say go seek him, go seek him um and yeah, that's kind of it.
Yeah, no, thank you. That's perfect. That's perfect. So I will definitely put your link to your YouTube channel in the description, Yeshua Testimonies. It's awesome. Binge all of them. They're all so good. And I'm on there. So, find
Yeah,
mine. And thank you so much for coming on and returning the favor. And yeah, I look forward to being on your channel again pretty soon. I think we're going to have a discussion kind of going in deeper to my testimony and other things. So thank you again. Really appreciate you sharing your story, and I'll talk to you soon.
yeah, no problem. God bless.
Thank you so much for sticking around to the end of the episode. I want to let you know that there are 3 different ways that you can get in touch and be a part of the Finding Fulfillment Together community. The first way is through our New Age to Jesus Zoom calls and our Telegram chat. So I have a group of people that have gone from having New Age beliefs to now knowing Jesus that have come together, and we meet twice a month on Zoom where we talk all about our journeys, what we're going through, spiritual warfare. We have so much in common. It's such an amazing group of people. Love for you to be a part of that. Just click the link in the link tree to sign up. And you can also click the link for the Telegram chat, which is just open all the time. Same group of people there that you can communicate with on a regular basis. So see both of those links in the link tree. The second way to get in contact and to be a part of community is through one-on-one calls with me, which are completely free. So if you just want someone to talk to, if you have questions, if you're kind of struggling with faith in Jesus, you're coming out of New Age, or just in general, just want someone to talk to about Christian faith, maybe you don't have a lot of people in your life that you can talk to, please call me. I love all kinds of discussions. Even if it's not about Jesus, Jesus. If you just need a friend, want someone to talk to, my calendar is open. You can find the link to book time with me in my link tree as well. And last but not least, I have a Facebook community for women. So sisters in Christ to come together and share our faith, talk about Jesus, support each other. And you can find that link in the link tree as well. All of these are free. All of these are just opportunities for us to have community and support each other. And I hope that you take advantage, and I hope to see you there. And with that, I just want to say goodbye. Thank you so much for being here, and I will see you next time.